The better you understand your customers, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to meet their needs and even exceed their expectations and innovate for them, solve problems for them, and win your market. Hi, I'm Mark Leonard. I am the principal of Ictus Strategic Marketing and Design Thinking, and I want to talk to you today about how one way you can get so close to your customers that they are actually helping you innovate, helping you identify and solve problems for them. So let's get into it. I want to talk to you about how and why to conduct an insight party for your company. I always start with my clients, I always start with these two very basic questions. The first question is, what problem are you trying to solve? A problem well defined is half solved. You need to define the problem very well. And the mistake that a lot of us make, and I make it too, is we start out by trying to solve our own problems. Right? We have problems as businesses. How do I get more customers? But that's not the problem that I'm talking about. The problem I'm talking about is your customer's problem. You should be thinking about what problem can I solve for my customers? That's what leads to real innovation, and they can help you with that. So I want to just focus your mind on thinking about what problems you can solve for your customers. The second question is, who are you solving them for? Who are you solving this problem for? And this really gets to a philosophy of design thinking that's been around for a long time, and that is always have your customer in mind. Always have the customer at the center of what you do. Customer-centric companies. We all say we're customer-centric companies, but we don't act like it when all we want to do is solve our own problems. We have to be focused on solving our customers' problems. You would be amazed at how many people actually skip these two questions when they start down the road of trying to innovate or trying to create new products or solving problems. But this is a mistake. You can't skip these two questions. This leads to a problem with a lack of listening. We stop listening to our customers. We fail to listen to what their pain points are, what their challenges are, what they're telling us about how we're trying to solve their problems. We need to listen to our customers, to our stakeholders, to our employees, so that we are better in tune with what they're going through. The reason we do this is because we all kind of fall in love with our own ideas, with our own solutions. And we've all done it, but this insight party idea is a way to get out of that mindset, to force ourselves to really listen to our customers. Smart companies, they seek feedback from their customers. They have customer surveys and comment boxes. If they get really excited, they'll do some focus groups or interview customers. That's what really smart companies do when they want to make sure that they are staying close to their customer. These are all good ideas. These are all good things. In fact, I'm a fan of all of these ideas. I'm a fan of surveys and focus groups and all of these things. If your company hasn't created some systematic ways to get feedback from your customers, I recommend that you do it. You need to set these things up, set up some surveys and comment boxes and use those. But I want to talk to you today about an approach that I've used with my clients that helps them get sort of beyond the typical customer satisfaction survey results that leads to some more innovative and even unexpected feedback. And unexpected serendipitous results or feedback, that's really what leads to real insight. An insight can inspire breakthrough innovations in solving problems for your customers. So this is an approach that relies on human-to-human interaction. It's an event that I call an insight party. The goals of an insight party, when I do an insight party, are, number one, it helps you test your assumptions. It helps reduce your risk. And I'll talk more about this, but the way that an insight party can help you reduce risk is it helps you make sure that you are leaning your ladder, your strategic ladder up against the correct wall. We've all been there where we've wasted time and money leaning our ladder against the wrong wall. This is an insight party can really help make sure that you are aligned strategically with what your customers want. It encourages real insight, and it invites customers into the process of innovation. And it invites new voices and perspectives into the conversation about innovation and the future of your product or your service. And finally, it helps you learn. It helps you learn very, very quickly. So these are the goals of an insight party. These are the goals in general of getting very close to your customers. Before we get really into how to throw in an insight party, I want to just talk to you about a few examples. Transformational health music therapy. This is my wife's company. And when we launched this company, we needed to figure out how to talk about music therapy and how to talk about transformational health music therapy, her specific company. Lots of people don't know what music therapy is, right? So we held an insight party to help us refine and define and sharpen our messaging for the company's brand. We invited nurses and speech therapists and parents and school administrators, really a broad range of people who might be users of music therapy or might be involved in music therapy as a client in some way, because we wanted to know what messaging would resonate with them. The biggest thing that came out of this insight party is the word healing. You know, we had in mind, again, we were kind of falling in love with our own idea. The word healing would be part of our brand messaging. Maybe it would even be part of a tagline. After spending a lot of time with these people that we invited to this insight party, and you can see they're giving us feedback on these posters and telling us what's most important to them. One of the biggest insights that came out of this insight party was that word healing. A mother, during the feedback portion, when she was sharing with us, she said, you know, I have a real problem with the word healing because my son died and music therapy was really important to him. He loved his music therapist. It improved the quality of his life. He looked forward to music therapy every week or multiple times a week if we could get it. But music therapy wasn't going to heal my son. And I don't want you to promise something that you can't deliver on. And that was really insightful. I mean, we had not thought of that idea. And it's such a simple idea. Don't promise something that you can't deliver on. And don't use the word healing if that's not what you're doing. That's not what the goal of music therapy is. We're not there to heal, right? So we wouldn't have gotten to that insight without having some very structured, purposeful, face-to-face time with those people, with that mother. That's the kind of insight that can come out of an insight party. And it saved us from making a big mistake with our messaging. Okay, the next example is Bank of America. Bank of America had a problem. First, they wanted to know how could they get more people to open Bank of America accounts. And that's a Bank of America problem. That's not a customer problem. Before they could solve their Bank of America problem, they needed to figure out, how do we identify a customer problem that we can help solve so that we can solve our problem of getting people to open more Bank of America accounts, right? So they went through extensive research. They interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people. They followed them into their homes and watched them manage their finances. They did lots and lots of surveys. They did a ton of research. But the point is that they got very close to their customer, very close to their customer. And in the end, they through this research, they figured out that the people they wanted to solve a problem for were baby boomer women and mothers. Because in their research, they discovered, as we kind of all intuitively know, that women statistically are the ones who are managing household finances. So they wanted to make sure that they were helping women solve problems financially. And they figured out through this research that one of the problems that women have, households have, is saving money. We're terrible at saving money, but we all want to save more money. And they found this one woman, but through getting close to their customer, they found this one woman who would play a mind game with herself. Every time she entered an expense into her check register, she would round up. So if she had an expense at the grocery store for, $47.50, she would round that up to $48 or maybe even $50. And she would do that over and over again throughout the month. And at the end of the month, she would have this buffer, this cushion of money in her checking account that she hadn't counted on because she was playing this trick on herself. That insight, knowing that about that mom, led to the Keep the Change program. So this idea led to an innovation that would not have happened if Bank of America hadn't gone to the trouble of investing their resources into learning more about the customer. The insight that they gleaned from their research, from getting close to their customer, was that people play mind games with themselves to save money. The results of the Keep the Change innovation that they came up with through this process: 700,000 new checking accounts, 1 million new savings accounts, 2.5 million new customers just in the first year. And the Keep the Change program is one of their, hallmark signature brand features for Bank of America still today. The last example I want to give you is California Housing Foundation is a nonprofit that is a client of mine, and I led their annual board retreat. And the president and I met several times while we were planning this retreat. And he told me what his goals were for the retreat were. Number one, he wanted to make decisions on the direction they were going to go in the next 24 months. Number two, he wanted to engage board members in a way that invited more contribution and equalized all the voices around the table. This is a problem in many organizations where one voice is often the loudest, and all the other voices, you don't get to hear what's going on in their heads. Maybe the greatest insight could come from the quietest person at the table. So this president wisely wanted to make sure that everybody in the room, all the board members, had an equal chance at voicing their opinions and sharing their thoughts. His third goal was to build on the vision that they had set from the previous year's retreat. He didn't want to start over. He wanted to build on that vision. Based on the previous year's retreat, there were really 4 directions that the organization could go. What we did was we built prototypes to represent these 4 directions. And we built them out of gingerbread houses, which was a lot of fun and made the room smell fantastic. So the retreat just had this gingerbread smell to it. It was great. But it helped them visualize each of these 4 potential futures. And it got them, what we did was, you can see there are posters on the wall that they gave feedback. These posters had information about each of the directions, like here are the risks, here are the rewards. What do you think about these risks and rewards? What did we miss? Here's what we estimate to be the price tag of this direction. Here are the knowns and the unknowns. And all of the board members, they wandered around and looked at each of these 4 directions and gave feedback through sticky notes on the board in their own time. Everybody had an equal say with these sticky notes. Instead of just sitting around a table talking, it helped them visualize the future, the potential future with each of these 4 prototypes. And they loved it. They said it was one of the most engaging, thought-provoking board retreats they'd ever been a part of. So they really, really loved it. Now that we've talked about why to have an insight party, I want to talk to you about how to go about creating an insight party or launching an insight party for your company. If you've made it this far, maybe you're interested in learning more about what this really looks like and how to do it well. So an insight party is like a museum. There are artifacts. People wander around on their own time, and they talk to each other. They come together and present their insights to your team. And if you're listening, you will almost always find something unexpected that comes out of their feedback. There are really 5 steps to an insight party, in my mind. What I help my clients do is number 1, you got to write your goals. Okay. You have to know what you're trying to accomplish. Number 2, you do that preliminary research. You do that research up ahead, and that's critically important so that you can do step 3 well. Step 3 is build your artifacts. Your research feeds into what artifacts you build for the museum, right? Step 4, you plan the event, and maybe you're planning the event while you're doing the first, maybe steps 2 and 3 as well. But number 4, you plan the event. There's the event planning part of it. And number 5, after the event is over, you reflect on what you've learned, all of the feedback that you've received from your participants. You reflect on that and analyze that and move forward. So you can do this. You should do this because it will help you stay close to your customers. If you want to be truly customer-centric, an insight party is a great way to put those words into action. So let's take a look at each of these 5 steps. Number 1 is write your goals. Your goals could be anything, but you got to know what you want to accomplish. That's what makes an insight party different than just a social gathering or like a customer appreciation party. There's a purpose and a focus to this event. So just some example goals. Maybe your goal is to learn what new features are most desirable in a new product or service that you're offering. Maybe your goal is to learn what messaging resonates with customers, like what we had to learn with our music therapy company. Or maybe your goal is to learn what pain points your customers are experiencing related to your field of work, kind of like the Bank of America project, where they needed to learn what were the challenges that their customers were experiencing, where they could identify a problem and solve that problem for their customers. Okay, so writing your goals, notice that each of these goals starts with the word learn, because the whole point of an insight party is to learn something from your stakeholders, from your customers, from your employees, whomever they may be. So write learning goals. Okay, step number 2, do some research. Okay, this is a very important step in having an effective insight party, because all of this research is going to inspire what you do in the 3rd step, which is build your artifacts. So your research could be, if you've been doing customer satisfaction surveys, gather that information up and know it, understand it very well. You could do customer interviews. Too many companies don't do this, but call 5 people in a month. Have your employees call 5 people and talk to them. Ask some specific questions about their experience with your company. If you've got a comments box, gather up all those cards and start looking at what kind of patterns you see. Look at market trends. Look at tech trends. Look at legislative trends and cultural trends. And finally, look at product alternatives. Look at the ways that your customers are not using your product, but instead using some alternative to solve a problem that they have, right? Your product is probably not the only game in town when it comes to solving problems. So you got to figure out why they're using those things. So this is some of the research that you can do ahead of time that's going to inspire step 3, which is to build your artifacts. Okay, there are lots of different types of artifacts that you could include in your insight party. You're really limited only by your own creativity. Remember, the goal is to pull meaningful feedback from your participants. That's the goal in all of your artifacts, is to get them to react to them. Okay, so take the research that you've gathered in the last step, organize it in a meaningful way, and present it to your partygoers to get their reactions. So what do artifacts look like? Artifacts can look like anything, but let's give you some examples. How about personas? Make 3 or 4 personas of your target customers and ask them what you missed. Ask them, how they're the same or how they're different from this persona. What resonates with them about this persona and what doesn't. This can help you refine your customer personas. It can help you improve your messaging and may even lead to a brand new persona with a different use case for your product or service. Another artifact could be an empathy map. Empathy maps are fantastic ways to get into the head and experience the life of your customer. So the idea is that you walk a mile in their shoes. Where do they have problems? What are they trying to get done? What are they hearing from their peers or the people that influence them? This can be a very powerful tool to help you understand your customers. And it comes from businessmodelanalyst.com. You can download this sheet. They do a great job. So take a look at this. If you make a giant poster out of this empathy map and ask people to fill in some ideas on each of these segments of this empathy map, you're going to learn about your customer. You're going to see patterns for sure. What about prototypes? Prototyping is the ultimate tool in rapid learning. You should keep it simple. Don't spend lots of time and money on the first round of prototypes. It should kind of look and feel unfinished, right? Because if you hand them a finished product, there's nowhere to go from there. The only reaction they can give you is it's good or it's bad. You want more than that. So you want them to experience it. A prototype should be experienced. Now, some things are easier to prototype than others. Products typically are easier to prototype, and services and business models are harder. But with some creativity and other design thinking tools that we can talk about, services can be prototyped as well. You just have to think about how you can get them to experience it. So the idea with prototypes is simply to make your thoughts explicit so others can grasp the concept and give you feedback for it. Make your ideas explicit. Cover story. This is a tool that I love to use in strategic planning sessions. The purpose of cover story is to imagine an ideal future. What would the headlines be around your brand in an ideal future? That's the idea with this thing. And you can ask your customers what they want that ideal future to look like. So this is a visioning exercise. And if you use it as an artifact in your insight party, all of a sudden your customers are helping you shape the vision of the company. And they're bought into that vision because they're part of it, right? So I just find this to be a great exercise to let customers in on. Dot voting is as simple as it sounds. Give people an array of options and ask them to vote with sticky dots. In the end, you're going to see which options your customers care most about. And the options that you give could be, different prototypes. You could be asking them about different prototypes or specific features or pricing or packaging preferences. Really, it could be anything, but you're just asking them what's most important to them. Now, you can also do this internally. Dot voting is a great internal exercise as well for when you're working with your team. You might ask, well, why not just sit around the table and raise hands? Who believes in this idea? Who believes in this idea? Raise your hands. The problem with that is because somebody's in the room, either the boss or some major influencer or whomever, and whatever way they vote is going to influence the way everybody else votes. It's a fact. So don't deny it, right? Dot voting can help democratize that voting procedure. That everybody's equal with dot voting. Nobody gets to influence anybody. You just, the dots are anonymous and you get to see the patterns. You really get to see what other people actually think without the influences of powerful people in the room. I actually did this with the nonprofit company where I led the board retreat. And we didn't vote with dots, we voted with candy canes. And you can see that the winner is in the lower left side there, if you see that right there. So you can do dot voting with other ways as well. A lot of fun. Okay, so after you've built your artifacts, and so we've talked about a number of different artifacts that you could include, the next step in your Insight Party is to simply plan your event. Number one, you should think about who you're going to invite. What perspectives do you want insight from? I like to aim for diversity. I like to aim for lots of different perspectives in the room, different experiences, life experiences, different product uses, whatever it is, but aim for diversity, okay? And you're going to make those invitations, whether they're phone calls or printed invitations or email, digital invitations, but you got to think about who you're going to get to come to this party. And then you need to create your invitation plan, or your communication plan. And that could be, I went 10 weeks out here. There's a lot of communication in this, but you get the idea. You're just thinking about, okay, 10 weeks from the event, what am I going to communicate? 8 weeks from the event, what am I going to communicate? 5 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, how am I going to communicate? You just need a plan. And when people confirm that they're going to come to the Insight Party, how are you going to communicate to them after they confirm? So how will you communicate to your confirmed attendees? It branches off into a new communication plan, right? So, but you got to make that plan. Next is choosing a venue. That's pretty easy. And finally, game day planning. The game day planning is, what is your agenda for the event? Who's going to speak when? How are you going to give instructions to your participants? Because there's going to be some instructions that are going to need to be communicated, How are you going to get them to share their feedback and their findings, their perspectives in the end? So what's your game day plan, right? Somebody in your company loves planning events. So find them and get them involved. Somebody loves to throw a party. This is a great way for you to involve someone on your team doing something that's out of the box and in their comfort zone. So find that person and help them or invite them to plan that event with you. And the last step of an Insight Party is, after it's all done, it's time to reflect on what you've learned. There's more work to do. First, and this is really, really important, you need to communicate to your partygoers and your team after the event. Thank them for coming. Thank your team for helping you pull this off. And just make sure you talk to those people after the event. Share the results and the insights that you got, that you learned from the event. Tell them that they played a really important part in helping you better serve your customers, helping you create a better future. So that communication after the event is really important. You're going to need to analyze the feedback. So you're going to have a lot of feedback, and you're going to need to make sense of it. You're going to look for patterns and trends in all of that data. And then with your team, as you're looking at that data and organizing it and making sense of it, you're going to look for points of surprise. What surprises you about this data? Those are the insights that you are going to learn from an Insight Party that you wouldn't learn from something else. And you might have more insights than you can actually take action on, but you're going to have to decide what's most important to you. What insights, what surprises are most actionable and most important for you to act on next. And finally, now that you've got those insights and you know which ones that you want to make a plan with or take action on, make a plan. Now is the time to start building a strategy, a strategic plan. And isn't this a better way to go about it? Shouldn't a strategic plan be built on knowing your customer really well? So listening to your customer, what motivates them, what they want, what they need, what problems they're experiencing. Shouldn't that be the basis of a strategic plan? Isn't that a better place to start? Now's the time. Now is when you can start doing that. All right, so those are the 5 steps of pulling off an insight party. In addition to the benefits that we've already talked about, there are just a few additional benefits. We talked about the 6 goals earlier on. There are any number of additional benefits to inviting your customers and stakeholders to an insight party. This really infuses your team with energy and excitement. It gets them out of the box. It forces your team to build in order to learn. That's another big principle in design thinking is we build to learn. If you've ever, had an idea that you put down on paper, you know that when the rubber meets the road, that's when you really learn something. So build it, build prototypes and show it to people. That's when you learn. It forces your team to build in order to learn. It co-ops customers to have an ownership mentality tied to your brand. We all know that we want our employees and our customers to feel like they own the brand because that leads to brand loyalty. This is a way to help them do that. And it demonstrates your commitment to being customer-centered. We all talk a big game about being customers first. Throwing an insight party is a great way to put your money where your mouth is and really be customer first, customer-centric. All right. Thank you very much. If you have made it this far and you're interested in talking to me about having an insight party for your company, throwing an insight party for your company, you can do this. You can do this. And if I can help you in any way, please let me know. I will talk to you for, I'll give you an hour or 2 of free consulting time if you want to talk about an insight party. Just mention this video. Just let me know that you watched this video, and I'll give you an hour or 2 of my time for free to talk about how you can plan an effective insight party. All right? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.